In exactly 3 seconds, the laws of physics inside this room are going to be suspended. What you are about to see isn't magic, it isn't a camera trick, and it certainly isn't a cooperative demonstration between friends. It is a violent mathematical dismantling of a belief system that everyone in this room has held for their entire lives. We are talking about the belief that mass equals power. The idea that to move a mountain, you must be a mountain. But right now, a 135-pound man is standing in front of an object that weighs nearly 3 times as much as he does, and he is about to prove that everything these men know about fighting is wrong. Oakland, late 1964. It's a Tuesday night, but it feels later than it is. We are inside a garage that has been converted into a dojo, but don't let the word dojo fool you. This isn't a pristine studio with polished mirrors and air conditioning. It is a dungeon of oxidized iron and raw ambition. The air here is thick, heavy with the smell of stale sweat, cheap liniment, and the metallic tang of old weights. There is no ventilation. The windows are painted over. The only light comes from a few bare bulbs hanging from the rafters, casting long, jittery shadows against the concrete walls. The room is packed, wall to wall, and look at the faces in this crowd. These aren't hobbyists. These are the local tough guys of the Bay Area. We have Golden Gloves boxers with flattened noses, street fighters with scarred knuckles, and traditional karatekas who have spent decades hardening their shins against oak trees. They are all standing with their arms crossed, leaning against the damp walls, waiting. They are waiting for the little movie guy to fail. There is a palpable tension in the room, a collective desire to see a celebrity humbled. They want to see the limits of fancy talk collide with the reality of heavy bone. In the center of the room hangs the judge. It is a 300-pound heavy bag, stuffed tight with sand and dense rags. It hangs from a rusted chain attached to the wooden rafters. A few moments ago, a local heavyweight, let's call him the Giant, stepped up to it. This man is nearly twice the size of our protagonist. He is built like a refrigerator, a wall of muscle and mass. He just finished his demonstration. He wound up, threw his entire body weight into a right hook, and slammed his fist into the canvas. The sound was a dull, heavy thud. The bag swung aggressively, the chain creaking under the stress. It was a good hit, a solid hit, the kind of hit that breaks ribs. The Giant turns around now, wiping his nose with the back of a taped hand, smirking. He looks at the small man in the corner and says, loud enough for everyone to hear, that physics is physics. Mass always wins. You can't cheat gravity. The room murmurs in agreement. They nod. This is the world they understand. Big beats small, heavy beats light. Bruce steps out of the corner. He doesn't walk with a swagger. He doesn't puff his chest out. In fact, compared to the Giant, he looks almost fragile. He is wearing a simple white tank top and loose trousers. He looks less like a fighter and more like a surgeon scrubbing in for a complex procedure. The Giant laughs, a low guttural sound, and tells him not to hurt his wrist on the sand. Bruce ignores the noise. He ignores the eyes drilling into his back. He walks up to the bag and stops. He stands uncomfortably close. This is the first thing everyone notices. He is well within the striking range, practically touching the canvas. In the fighting world, this is a mistake. You need distance to generate momentum. You need a runway to crash the plane. But Bruce isn't looking for a runway. He's looking for a connection. He places his right hand lightly on the bag. He measures the distance. Then he pulls it back. Not 2 feet, not 1 foot. He pulls his fist back 1 inch. The room goes quiet. It's the kind of silence where you can hear a shoe squeak on the concrete. The boxers in the back exchange glances. They are confused. Is this a joke? Is he mocking them? You cannot generate force from 1 inch. It is mechanically impossible. There is no acceleration time. There is no travel. But then Bruce does something even stranger, something that looks, to the trained eyes in the room, absolutely amateur. He looks down at his feet, he shifts his weight, and then he adjusts his rear big toe. He rotates it inward, a subtle, almost awkward twist of the heel that points his knee toward the floor. To the traditionalists watching, this looks stupid. It looks off balance. He has just compromised his base. He has opened his center line. The Giant crosses his arms tighter, his smirk widening. He thinks the little man is slipping. He thinks the pressure has gotten to him. They are all waiting for the mistake. Bruce whispers a single condition to the man holding the bag. Watch the chain. He isn't trying to swing the bag. He is trying to break the ceiling. The atmosphere shifts. The skepticism is still there, but it's mixed now with a strange curiosity. Why did he move his toe? Why is he so relaxed? Bruce takes a breath. He drops his chin slightly. His eyes lock onto a single grain of the canvas texture. And then he initiates the movement. It doesn't start in the shoulder. It doesn't start in the arm. It starts at that awkward, stupid toe. The energy sparks there, spirals up the calf, locks the hip into a violent rotation, and explodes through the heel. It travels up the spine, expands the latissimus dorsi, and funnels down the arm like water through a fire hose. The impact does not sound like a punch. It sounds like a shotgun blast went off inside a closet. Crack. The 300-pound bag does not swing back and forth. It folds. It literally folds in the middle around Bruce's fist and flies upward, defying the arc of gravity, slamming violently against the wooden rafters. Dust rains down from the ceiling. The chain snaps with a metallic screech that sets everyone's teeth on edge. Then, dead silence. The bag swings wildly, erratic and broken. The giant's jaw is literally hanging open. His arms have dropped to his sides. The smirk is gone, replaced by a look of primal confusion. No one moves, no one speaks. The boxers, the street fighters, the karate masters, they are all frozen, their brains trying to process the data their eyes just received. That stupid adjustment, that tiny rotation of the toe, just generated more kinetic energy than a car crash at 30 miles per hour. Bruce retracts his hand. He doesn't rub his knuckles, he doesn't celebrate. He stands there perfectly balanced, breathing rhythmically through his nose. He has just performed a miracle of biomechanics, turning a 135-pound frame into a 1-ton battering ram. But here is the twist. This is the moment that separates a fighter from a master. This is the part that nobody in that garage expected. Bruce sees the shock in the giant's eyes. He sees the humiliation beginning to form, the defensive anger rising in the man who was just proven publicly wrong. Bruce could destroy him right now. He could drop a witty line, laugh, and walk out the door a legend. That is what a tough guy would do. That is what Oakland expects. Instead, Bruce walks over to the giant. He doesn't look down at him, he looks him in the eye. He points to the floor. He points to his own foot. And in a voice that is calm, respectful, and terrifyingly authoritative, he begins to explain. He tells the man that the toe adjustment wasn't a mistake. It was the trigger. He explains that power isn't about size, it's about alignment. He tells him that by turning the heel you lock the hip, and when the hip locks, the entire mass of the earth is behind your fist. He spends the next 20 minutes teaching the man who mocked him exactly how to do it. But as we look back at that dusty garage, at the dust settling on the shoulders of these stunned men, we have to ask ourselves a few hard questions. Because this story isn't really about a punch, it's about leverage. Where in your life are you relying on brute force? Where are you pushing, straining, and exhausting yourself against a heavy bag that won't move, simply because you think harder means better? And more importantly, who are you underestimating right now? Who are you ignoring because they don't fit your version of power? We are watching a room full of experts get dismantled by a detail they thought was a mistake. And the question is, what stupid little adjustment are you ignoring that could change everything? Because Bruce didn't just break the equipment that night, he broke the room's ego. And then, he did something even rarer. He rebuilt it into respect. The room in Oakland has changed. 5 minutes ago it was a coliseum demanding blood. Now it is a classroom. The sweat is still stale, the light is still flickering, but the hostility has evaporated, replaced by a dense, studious silence. The giant, the man who just mocked the little movie guy, is now standing in front of the bag, trying to replicate what he just saw. He looks clumsy, he looks confused. He is trying to muscle it again, trying to push the bag instead of shocking it. Bruce steps in. He doesn't bark orders. He places a hand on the man's hip and another on his shoulder. He corrects the posture. He tells him to stop trying to be strong and start trying to be fast. Be soft, he says, like water. The local tough guys, The men with scarred knuckles and closed minds are leaning in now. They are watching a deconstruction of their entire reality. They are realizing that for years, they have been driving a car with the parking brake on. But let's pause the tape here, because if you think this story is just about a cool party trick or a martial arts technique, you are missing the point entirely. This moment in the garage is not about fighting. It is about the terrifying efficiency of truth. See, in 1964, the martial arts world was obsessed with form. It was about looking correct. It was about wide stances, chambered fists, and screaming loudly to show spirit. It was a performance. What Bruce Lee did with that stupid toe adjustment was an act of rebellion. He looked at thousands of years of tradition and asked a dangerous question: does this actually work? When the answer was no, he threw it away. When the answer was, adjust the toe inward to unlock the kinetic chain of the hip, he kept it, even if it looked ugly, even if people laughed. That night, Bruce wasn't just hitting a bag. He was introducing the concept of honesty to physical combat. He showed them that a 135-pound man cannot lie. If he tries to use brute force against a 300-pound giant, he loses. Physics is unforgiving. So he has to find the leverage, he has to find the hack. The heavy bag eventually stops swinging. The giant, sweating profusely, finally lands a strike that snaps correctly. It's not as loud as Bruce's, but it's sharper than anything he has ever thrown before. He looks at his own hand in disbelief. He looks at Bruce. There is no anger left in him, only the unsettling realization of how much he still has to learn. Bruce nods, pats him on the arm, and picks up his towel. He doesn't ask for applause. He doesn't charge a fee. He just packs his bag. Months later, Bruce would perform this same one-inch punch at the Long Beach International Karate Championships. Cameras would roll. The footage would travel across the oceans. The world would see grainy black-and-white film of a man sending opponents flying backward with a twitch of his wrist. It would become the stuff of legend, the kind of clip that teenagers replay in slow motion, trying to spot the wires. But the real magic didn't happen on that stage in Long Beach with the trophies and the applause. The real magic happened in that dirty, unventilated garage in Oakland. It happened when no one was filming. It happened when the stakes were personal, when the skepticism was thick enough to choke on, and when a single failure would have meant being laughed out of the city. That is the difference between a performer and a master. A performer needs an audience to be great. A master is great in the dark. And this brings us back to the question that has been hanging over this entire story. The question of that stupid toe. Most of us go through life like the giant. We rely on our mass. We rely on our titles, our bank accounts, our years of tenure, our loud voices. We think that if we just push harder, if we just grind longer, the heavy bag will move. We equate effort with results. We think struggle is a badge of honor. And when we see someone like Bruce, someone who moves with effortless precision, someone who achieves in seconds what takes us hours, we get angry. We call them lucky. We call them talented. We mock their methods because they look different from ours. We say their adjustments are stupid because we are terrified that we might be doing it wrong. But look at the flaw. Look at the leverage. Bruce Lee taught us that maximum power does not come from maximum tension. It comes from total relaxation, interrupted by a split second of focused alignment. It comes from removing the drag. It comes from fixing the small, unsexy details that nobody else bothers to look at. So, here is the challenge for you. Where is the friction in your life right now? Where are you slamming your fist against a wall expecting it to break, but only breaking your hand? Maybe the answer isn't to hit it harder. Maybe the answer is to look down at your foundation. Maybe you need to adjust your toe. It might feel awkward. It might look stupid to the traditionalists around you. Your colleagues might laugh. Your competitors might smirk. But when the chain snaps and the dust rains down from the rafters and the room goes silent, they won't be laughing anymore. They will be asking you to teach them. And that is the final test. When that moment comes, and it will come, what will you do? Will you use your new power to humiliate the people who doubted you? Will you stand over them and gloat? Or will you be like the man in the white tank top? Will you see the shock in their eyes, recognize it as the death of their ego, and extend a hand? True power isn't about proving you are the strongest person in the room. It's about making the room stronger because you are in it. The punch only travels 1 inch, the impact lasts forever. Change your stance, break the ceiling, teach the giants.